Call this meeting to order, please. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll have roll call, please, Ashley.
Here she is.
Councilmember Crowe?
Yes.
Selby?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Livingston?
Yes.
Mayor Walner?
Yes. Okay, just start out with my little quote for the day. I thought this was appropriate as we look towards the change in leadership that we got coming up here probably in about another 2.5 weeks. Few things are more important during a change event than communication from leaders who can paint a clear and confidence-inspiring vision of our future. That quote was by Sarah Clayton. I just thought it was appropriate for us, we the leaders here of the City Council, that as we embrace change, we look at this in a positive light and make sure we communicate with the public at large and keep them informed as to how things are going along. We will have, at this point, looking to have an approval of tonight's agenda. We'll just need a motion for that, and if anybody had anything to add to the agenda or corrections before we...
Just that we're adding that pay estimate number 3, East
So-
6th Street onto the agenda that we had, but there was a notice to us all
Yep.
to add that, but that's what you're adding?
Yeah, it's Ashley had already added it, but...
On our
that's-
paper
on
agenda,
our
but
pa-
not
yeah,
on
on
our...
the computer, right, exactly.
Okay. I will so move.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carried. Okay, at this point, we have, of the meeting, we have citizens' comments, and then I will, anybody that would like to approach the council, and now would be a good time for that. And Matt, I believe you have something you'd like to share with us? Just come up to the microphone and just state your name and...
I'm Matt Luck, I'm my wife Meredith. We bought the old number 1 downtown here last year. I'm just gonna hand a letter. I wrote a letter to everybody. They're all the same. I'll give it- But it'll explain a little bit, and then you'll have a little bit of a note.
Thank you, kind sir.
Thank you. Too short for this joint. Okay. So we own the restaurant downtown here. I know a lot of you. I've seen a lot of these spaces. I've been working downtown here for quite a few years, and right now we're interested in brewing our own beer and having it for sale in the restaurant. And I just looked into it a little bit with some people here at the city, and there aren't really a lot of rules on it. The only main rule in your books right now is that brewing isn't allowed in the city limits of Morris. So I'd like to see if you guys would take a look at this letter and consider that for licensing on sale and individual off sale in town here.
Council, have any questions for Matt?
Not for Matt.
Well, according to our city codes, Blaine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they are, breweries are mentioned in our city code, but they're allowed in 12 heavy industrial zones, correct?
Right.
So in order for this to happen, we're in your location, we'd have to change the zoning and all that good stuff, so.
So what would be the zone, you said what is
It's
the
a
zoning?
12 heavy industrial zone.
Which is what?
It's
Like where would that be?
Westmore,
And
out
why?
there.
And so we
industrial
would,
park.
And the reason for that is because when our codes are done, there is no such thing as brew pubs.
yeah,
You know, so it really speaks to the manufacturing of beer like Budweiser or, you know, all these big
Something
manufacturers. Yeah. And so the next step, and I did get a chance to talk to Matt about this, the next step would be to send it back to the planning commission and look at what would the rules be if you're gonna allow that in a different zone. I talked to Mike Jacobson, the building inspector. He also works for other cities. I believe Alec has them. I believe Wilmer has them. Benson does not. And so that's one of the things we could go to those cities and find out what their rules are and
We have a city like Starbuck that has one, so they are much more sizable.
So that's just a brewery in Starbuck,
It's not a,
not a restaurant.
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so it's the brewery and the restaurant that we need.
Well, it's, so most of the cities that, in our area within 100 miles, almost every city has some sort of a place that makes their own beer for sale, whether it would be at a restaurant or just a brewery. And the rule, the on-site selling of your own beer is usually tied in with your normal on-sale liquor license. And then the state issues the off-sale portion of, 1 can to go or something like that.
Per se, growler.
Yeah, a growler, yep.
Limit of size or so many or.
Yeah, the state has a limit on 128 ounces per sale,
Per transaction.
per day, yep, per person.
I think it's something we can have Aaron hopefully look at, do some legwork for us and find out, but it's the new hot trend around for everything. I mean, the successful ones that I've talked to around the Minnewaska House.
Yeah, he's doing
Culver's
good
in
over
mine
there.
That's
yeah.
doing it and very successful, so I think it's something we definitely take a look at and do some legwork and.
I think it's worth your time. Maybe other people would be interested in it at some point too, but here we are in the middle of everybody else who's doing it, and we're not allowed to do it here.
No, thank you for bringing that up, because I wouldn't have thought anything about that.
So I think, we talked about it internally, and I think one of the next steps would be, to, have the planning commission look at that, because you can change the city code by the city council offering a change, by the planning commission offering a change. City administration writes up a change and offers it. In this case, because it's zoning, it's gonna have to go through the planning commission because it needs a public hearing through them, and then it would be an ordinance, which you've done a number of those ordinances here, changing the city code. But we have to get the right language first, so the planning commission can help do some of that legwork and get her started. I think the time has come to do
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
Yeah.
I'll pull some ordinances from our neighbors and try to compile something so that the planning commission has something to look at. And then eventually you.
That'd be something that could go on the next planning commission meeting, or?
To get it started, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess my only question would be the allowing of the off-sale. Would that, would it only be for the,
It's only for the beer that you make.
that you make?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that doesn't affect any
Yep.
other establishments or anything like that?
Yeah,
Right.
I think you could write it that way.
That's the way it is.
I think there's a.
The state's rule
the
on it
state
is,
has a pretty
it
strict
has to be,
rule.
it's the product that you're producing. You can't, you can't sell the Bud Light to go, for example, yeah.
Okay.
It looks like light industrial, in a light industrial district, Blaine, that would be an option under conditional use, I think, then.
I think it's, yeah,
Or-
well, and that,
That's something to figure out.
you'll see that stuff. It's gonna be in the central business district,
Yeah.
and it could be a conditional use, or it could be a allowed use, if you write the right rules to
Right.
put it in place, but.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, hey, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, Matt, appreciate it. Good luck in the ball games tonight. Okay, we have, any other citizens' comments? Anybody else would like to speak? If not, I'll, invite Joel up here. He's here to give us the latest and greatest.
You bet. Thank you much. Great to see you all and appreciate you having me here again this evening and the relationship that you have with Bremer. I guess starting on the top, you're one of the few cities who are going to see a premium reduction this year, and there's some reasons for that of just overall changes of this year versus last year. But I always like to give a little context. We spend quite a bit of analyzing the insurance market, carriers, the macro of it. and to see how it affects those that have insurance, not only cities, but all of us who have any type of insurance, from farm, homeowners, you name it. And it continues to be one of the most challenged insurance environments we faced, and in part because of the factors we all are dealing with inflation, with cost of construction, with the sue happy environment that we're in. And to give a little flavor of the property market, so 2022 marked the 8th consecutive year where there was at least 10 losses of $1 billion each in insured losses. 2022 itself had 18 of those events where there was $1 billion of losses each. All the tornadoes, fires, hurricanes, you name it, floods. We're padded here in our little Midwest pocket, so we don't see as much of those effects. But insurance is a pooling of premium, so it's absorbed by the masses. And what that means to us and to all of us, and cities are in their own little bucket in Minnesota, it's rate pressure. It's trying to collect enough premium to pay claims. And last year, the insurance, property, and casualty industry lost $26 billion. So when you look at the amount of premium collected versus paid and all the costs that go into it. So you're starting from a very disadvantaged position. So in and of itself, what you'll see with the league by and far has been one of the best performing insurance programs that's really available, and certainly in the state of Minnesota. So you haven't seen and likely won't see some of the drastic effects that, you know, a lot of folks are facing, double-digit property rate increases. The league is half of that, and looking at rates across the board. So what you'll see in the document is it's this point in time last year versus renewal this year, and so a big chunk of the difference is the pre and post police changes. And so naturally that's a high exposure area, and so you'll see a lot of premium associated with that, and specifically in work comp and all of the equipment associated. You did see a good refund during the term last year as well, but just when looking at it's just the snapshot that you take. We'll talk a little bit about property, but apart from the payroll reduction from the police force, you guys had a very significant improvement in your experience, Mott, to the tune of about $35,000. That is just less mod, so you had better claims experience than the previous years, and that's a direct reflection of premium to the benefit of the city. And so that, in combination with the payroll changes, saw about a $73,000 reduction in work comp. And that's significant, and it's kudos to the efforts of safety, and we'll talk a little bit more about behind the scenes that Blaine and Whitney are putting it in place to really take the city to the next steps as far as proactive safety and doing that quiet work that's needed to avoid the incidents or not having a safety and a work comp claim that you hear about. So at a baseline, the biggest premium change that you'll see, apart from the reductions, is the property. So as I mentioned, in today's environment, double-digit rates for large organization are the common. The league is 5%. So we're starting at a 5% rate, but what the biggest driver of the change is your property limits. So they have an appraisal firm that is allotted to all of the cities in Minnesota, and they basically analyze what is the cost of construction for the various construction types of the buildings that cities have. And that's what you'll see the comparison. It's roughly for the buildings in your mobile property, $6 million more in replacement cost values. And that's directly coming from the appraisal firm. And the reason for that is for obvious reasons, as if a building goes down, you want to be happy with the insurance check that you're getting. And so that's a function of the league's program that's not really found as much outside of the league's program. And it's, again, getting you to replacement costs as close as possible as estimated by an independent appraisal firm, and that's what they do across the country and specific to cities. The various lines you'll see, and we can go line by line, but any major reduction is going to be because of the police changes. Your cyber remained flat, and that is not common in today's cyber landscape. In fact, the average cyber rate increase is 25 to 100%. Your premium did not change there, in part to you doing the proactive things that you need to do to qualify for the coverage, in part because of the league stability. And then also they are making available, which the city is going to utilize, a loss control professional, cyber expert that's specific to the league and that you have full access to, analyzing programs, analyzing procedures, what you should be doing, what other cities are doing, and how can you move yourself forward. That's still a significant risk to any organization, certainly cities with a level of data that could be accessed by a cyber breach. One of the things that we do every year, and we look at an extent, because you've had a number of years where your MOD has been over 1.0, and that results in a basically premium surcharge with how the experience MOD calculation is formatted. But you analyze over the last 5 years what deductible level is suitable for the city, and you start from a baseline premium perspective. And you had some higher years, and we'll look at that a little bit too, with some higher claims. And when you look at the averages and also the individual years, no deductible or $0 deductible is still the most, the deductible that makes sense to the city. So we'll continue to look at that, but we look at all claims, how it works out, and we provide that to administration. But no deductible remains the best choice for the city based on your claim performance. So when you look at, in part, why did you see a $35,000 reduction in your experience MOD? It's because one of your higher years fell off. So the 18-19 policy period was one of the higher years that fell off. Your current highest year is that 19-20 policy period, and so that will fall off subsequently. So it was replaced by some better performing years. You can see in the analysis here, frequency-wise, you've been trending in the right direction, but in the current term and the year before, we are watching, and there was, respectively, a little bit higher claims. So when we're looking at that, and you say, well, what can we be done? That's where you really dig in to safety committee, analyzing what can you do from a proactive standpoint to see what happened and how can we rectify and improve. And that's some of the meetings we've just had with the league and some folks available, and you're even looking at regional safety groups and just some really good programs that's available to help manage work comp. Apart from that, the strong performance of the league, your most recent dividend from the league was about $24,000, and that's, again, unique to the function of the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust, and that's really just something not typical or common outside of city programs. So we're fortunate to work with a number of cities, but also a lot of just large organizations with a lot of buildings, and I wish all of the insurance programs were like the league, because it's not the common in today's landscape with cost and claims, and then also too, and we're on the year anniversary of some of these storms. It's a good reminder, check your homeowners' values, make sure you have enough there, because a lot of folks just didn't have enough in these storms and either can't replace or not near to what they had. So all in all, it's a renewal change down to 286,043. And apart from any questions, that was some of the points I wanted to discuss.
So I understand this, the dividend we received from the League of Minnesota Cities for $24,844, is that in addition to the reduction in premium that we're experiencing?
Correct. Yep, that's a bucket in and of itself. So that's just a check that you get back apart from the premiums that you'll see.
Okay, yeah, and I see the automobiles obviously went down quite a bit because we don't have as many now. I suppose.
You bet. Yep.
Almost half.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So we saved some money there.
And to, frequency-wise, when you look, it's common for cities for work comp, police always is the highest frequency. So that some of the changes, again, that will help your experience MOD and your frequency over time, and just really significant claims. We'll see a lot from police, and is what it is, but there's a net benefit from a premium standpoint for some of those changes.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Joel?
Looks good. Like you say, the workman's comp is the huge killer there. It has been for us the last several years, and it's nice to see that huge reduction, and we can look forward to further reduction hopefully here with the coming bad years if we keep our good record.
That's what it is, and keeping
our
us
safety
proactive as possible, because you have every resource available to you, but it's only as good as the top down of leading through, and there's some good ideas going through, and again, kudos to Whitney and Blaine over the years for seeing some of those things through.
Looks good.
Yeah, we'll be dealing with the resolution here in just a few minutes, but thank you for coming, Joel, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. We don't have any public hearings tonight. We will move on to the reading and approval of the May 23rd regular meeting minutes.
I will move approval of the regular minutes of our May 23 meeting.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second on the regular meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We will have the condensed version of the same minutes from May 23rd.
I will move approval of the condensed minutes from May 23rd.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second on the condensed version of the minutes. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We will move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the audit of city bills, transit report, revenue and expenditure report, the gambling report, Minnesota Deer Hunters Association application for exempt permit, and the added pay estimate number 3 for East Side Park. And I'll just look for a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
I will move approval of the consent agenda.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion before we put that to a vote on any of the items? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Carried. We have petitions, requests, and communications. Looks like we're gonna have to add a couple of library board members. So library board new members, Nicole Schmidt and Leanne Dean. And then I'll be looking for a motion to approve the 2 new board members.
I will move on that motion to approve 2 new board members to the library board.
And I will second.
We have a motion and a second to add the 2 new members to the library board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carried. All right, we will move on to ordinances and resolutions. The first one is just a resolution accepting the insurance renewal proposal that you just listened to from Joel. I'll look for a motion to approve, and then we can have any further discussion, and then we will vote.
I will move on the resolution accepting the insurance renewal proposal.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution accepting the insurance renewal proposal. Any further discussion on that resolution? Hearing none, we'll have roll call vote on that resolution. Ashley?
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Phillipson,
Yes.
Mayor Waller.
Yes. Okay, we will move on to the resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an employment agreement. I suppose again, I'll look for a motion to approve, and then we can have some discussion, and then we'll vote again.
I will move entering into an employment agreement for our new city manager for her to start July 18th, I believe.
And I will second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an employment agreement. I guess, is there any discussion on the contract or itself? I guess I just wanted to bring up one point. Maybe it's something we could talk about, maybe not. I just, as I was reading through the contract, I think everything looks fine with the start date that Jeff had mentioned, July 18th. There was some language in the work, if you look at line item number 13, I believe it is. Yeah, the hours of work. I just thought it might be worthy to have a brief discussion on it. I think it's fine. But when you get down to the part there, towards the last paragraph, it says, "It is further understood that the employee may absent themselves from the office to a reasonable extent in consideration of extraordinary time expenditures for evening and weekend meetings at other than normal working hours." Now, I understand that the city managers, of course, they put in a lot of extra time and all that, but the part that was kind of a sticky point with me was to a reasonable extent. Now, I don't really see it being a problem, but I just thought, you know, what's reasonable? I mean, is that something we'd like to define further? If not, I mean, I know it's probably more of a professional courtesy that's granted to, you know, the city manager, because I know they do put in a lot of extra time, so maybe it's a moot point, nothing to be worried about, but I thought at a minimum, I'd just throw it back to the council, see what your thoughts were.
As a salaried employee, there is really no number of hours. You know, I mean, they could work 30 hours and you still have to pay them for 40. They could work 50 hours. I mean, I think there's some stuff for some overtime. So I think really that language doesn't personally bother me, because I think if you find that that's a problem, then you deal with it accordingly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't, according to the, you know, my understanding of the salaries, it's not anything that you can control. You
Yeah.
just- If somebody's not working enough hours that you feel, then you take steps to correct it. But I think that if you're doing a lot of stuff outside of office hours for the city, and it's reasonable that maybe you're off a couple hours, a couple days, or stuff like that, I guess. I believe if our city manager doesn't honor the reasonable extent, then we have to
Yes.
change course.
How do you define reasonable extent, though? And I understand all of the salary piece of it, but then when it's just reasonable extent, and then who would be the one to say, we're not working our hours here, or, you know, we have staff that's here 8 to 4:30, 4:30, I think, and if we have a city manager, and I don't know, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there as the other side. If you have a city manager that spends most of their time in the office in the evenings and not when your staff is available, is that?
I think it's pertaining to the different commissions, the boards that they're taking part in. It's not like they're gonna come in and hopefully not working in their office to be there when nobody else is there. I think it's pertaining to the different functions in our community that we would like to see our city manager partaking in and taking part in things going on in the community. So I don't see a problem with it. Aaron, have you had a chance to look over the
I
agreement?
did, yeah.
Okay, you see anything in there that's a major red flag?
Nothing struck me. The difficulty with reasonable extent is, I don't know how you define that. It's so tough, and we all probably have a different view of what reasonable is.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I was questioning, and, you know, sometimes, and I know other people that are, I just, a thought, you know, you could say equal to the time off. Say, in other words, if you spent, but then again, you gotta get into who's tracking that. You know, say if they went to an event and they worked 4 hours in the evening, then they could take equal to that amount of time. You know, that would kind of take out the gray area of the reasonable thing, but, you know, I don't really, my personal take on it is, I just don't think we're gonna have a problem with it, but I just thought it was worthy of having a discussion and just see what you thought. You know, if you wanted to change it, now would be the time before we sign the contract and agree on the contract, but Whitney was kind enough to send me the non-union policy regarding, because this is a non-union position. Salaried employees will be required to work the hours needed to complete all of the assigned tasks, and no pay adjustments will be made for completing all the tasks assigned to them, working more or less than 40 hours a week. So just in general, salaried employees, the last paragraph here really says it all. Salaried employees will have the flexibility of regulating the hours worked during this normal work schedule based on the actual hours worked in a given period. So it does state right in the non-union policy that they do have the flexibility of regulating the hours worked during the normal work week. So I guess, again, I don't think it's an issue, but I just thought we should.
I can just tell you from my perspective, you don't want to start tracking the time that somebody's in the office, because if you're going to do that, then you need to be here early in the morning and you need to be here late at night. I'll be here until 7:30 tonight because we're going to take a tour. At the same time, as a leader, and we've talked about this, because I have more, it's more than just the city manager. We have a number of salaried employees, and if they know you're not putting in the time, they're not going to be happy with you. And so then I'm very careful to let people know that I'm probably going to be leaving for a little while, you know, that I usually tell people I have meetings tonight or whatever, just so they know where I'm at. But, you know, the whole issue of regulating somebody, I would make this suggestion. If somebody thinks that maybe that's the case, you already talked about having a couple of times a year sitting down with the city manager and doing a performance evaluation, bring it up then and say, you know, if somebody thinks that there's a problem. But the last thing you ever want to do as a leader is to not be around doing your job and then have everybody see that. And I'm very careful. The one added piece to this is that we have vacation time, we have sick time. And so if I'm sick, I'm using sick time. If I'm on vacation, I'm using vacation time, because that's what that's there for. And so comp time or you know, adjusting your time a little bit for a meeting or whatever, it's just something that you have to understand how to do it. And I watch over other people that are doing it too, and that's my word to them is, you know, if you're going to be working longer hours, you know, you can take a little bit of time off to compensate for that, but we just kind of understand how it's working.
Yeah, and I think that's, like I said earlier, it's kind of more of a professional courtesy that you extend, and, you know, when you get to a professional position like that, I just don't see it being an issue, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, it's not,
maybe
it's not a 40-hour-a-week job.
My suggestion then is just, you know, strike that last sentence. Don't even have it in there. I mean, that you're not putting it out that there is that. It's just, you know, you're really not stating anything on that situation. I mean, you know, so if you don't want to have to explain or look at what is reasonably, just strike the last sentence from "it is further understood" down.
Yeah, we could do that too.
You know, I mean, because generally that's understood for most salaried
Yes.
positions. And so if you strike that out, you don't have to deal with that verbiage, period.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that thought. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, from a legal standpoint, it's not a problem. It's not a problem to strike it.
You know, she's been, you know, she's stepping in, she's done the job, she knows the drill, so I don't
I
anticipate.
mean, I don't have a problem with it, but if somebody does, I mean, my suggestion would be to strike it if we were worried about it, but.
I don't see where it being a problem.
I don't either,
I'd say let's move forward.
Okay, as is, just leave it,
yeah.
okay? We'll just leave it as is, then, if that's the consensus, and,
Do you have a motion on this, Mayor?
We do,
I think we had a motion.
We
and
have a
second.
motion and a second.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
we
right.
did, now we just need, we were gonna have discussion and then
All right.
vote, so. Any other discussion before we put it to a vote? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote on that resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an employment agreement. Ashley?
Councilmember Selby,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Felixson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Mullins.
Yes. Good discussion, thank you. We'll move on to the next resolution. It's a resolution approving corrected deferred assessment language for parcel number 20-0630-000. And again, we'll just look looking for a motion to approve, and then we can have some discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving corrected deferred assessment language for parcel number 20-0630-000.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on that resolution. I'll just open it up for any discussion. Wayne, you want to provide anything?
Yeah, this was, when this was brought to my attention that, we apparently were supposed to try to collect this from the property owner. And we sat down, we talked to it. I actually got a hold of Aaron and looked at this. And the key document is the one that's on the end of this, where this is the only one, for some reason, they put a pay after 15 years date, which to me, and the one thing I mentioned in my memo is we don't put connections into vacant lots anymore. Because if you have a construction project and you put in 10 connections to vacant lots, now you spread your cost over the total number of lots. So now you got 10 lots that may never ever pay, and now all the rest of the lots reduce their costs. And they are the ones that are currently using it and stuff. And so what we do is we'll ask a property owner if they want a connection on their lot, and then they'll pay for it. And normally they don't, because they're never going to do anything with that lot. So here's a case where the person had an empty lot. The city decided they're going to put water and sewer onto it. They assessed that lot. The person said they couldn't afford to pay it, and so then they deferred it. A lot of them were deferred and then waived after 30 years, or they're deferred until the property was developed. And so now the lot gets sold. There was no language in the deferment that upon selling it, you have to pay it, because sometimes that's the case. And so the new owner bought it and is stuck with a special assessment for something that they're never going to use, because that lot is next to the house that they have now, and they're not going to build a second house. So the easy remedy to this is just to change the language in the deferment to the same language as some of the other lots until it's developed and used. And if it's never developed and used, then it's not going to be paid. The one thing I don't want to have happen is to just forgive it because it wasn't paid. And at some point in the future, let's say that it was developed and they see that there's water and sewer there, they're going to assume that it was paid, and then they're not going to want to pay for it again. And so it's easier just leaving this in there, and at some point if they develop it, they're going to have to pay the assessment. Right now, if there's an empty lot, somebody comes in to develop it, they have to pay a connection fee that's based upon a rolling average of what our assessments are to hook up to that water and sewer. Because it's not just the connection from the main line to the lot for water or sewer. It's the whole system. That's what the assessments are based upon. So it's important to understand that. So my recommendation is you just change the deferred language to if it's developed and used.
Is this coming about because this piece of property was sold? Is that what
No,
triggered this?
it's coming
It's
about
just
because the 15 years are up and now the property
Okay.
owner is being asked to pay the full assessment on it. And they're not the original property owner. There's somebody that, and I don't know if Tucker knew that when he bought this lot, that there's a assessment sitting. I would imagine the title attorney would have found that and made him aware of that when it happened, but there's no intention to put a house on that lot.
But as a standard, we don't put a hookup on a vacant lot.
We don't do that
That should have
anymore.
got caught, or we shouldn't, but I just know that's not standard procedure any longer.
Yeah, I
If
think,
somebody does hook up, they'll pay the current rate or what the rate was when it was put in.
they'll pay the current rate. So we develop a rolling average of what the costs are for utilities. And if we don't have a project during the year, we'll do an estimate. But if we do have a project, we roll that into the average.
Are there other properties that you know out there, or is this just very unique to this piece of this property that have an assessment on an empty lot?
Well, that's what all those that are listed,
That's
they're,
what
they're all
makes-
properties that have an assessment on an empty lot. I think all of them are.
And so, like you said, once they're developed, then that assessment would be paid off. at
They would have to
the
pay it off instead of paying, they wouldn't have to pay a hookup fee because they'd have to pay off the assessment. Because the water and sewer is already there. And I don't know what happens after 30 years if you waive it and somebody comes in to develop. I would imagine the city just ate, the assessments.
That was gonna be my following question is, there's a half dozen or more right above it that say waive after 30 years. Do we wanna adjust those potentially at our next meeting?
I don't
Adjust
think we
those?
can.
We can't?
I don't think legally we could.
No.
Because you'd have to go through a whole new assessment hearing.
Understood.
So to get this clear, we're looking at just eliminating it on all of these, not just the one?
No,
No, just this
this
one.
only pertains to this one parcel.
Parcel.
Yep. And so then it's gonna wind up being like the other ones that are listed there that say develop and use.
Well, this is the only orphan, basically.
That's the odd, I don't know why they,
It's crazy.
I don't know what, and deferments are different than assessments, I misspoke there, because deferments, you actually have to come, so with all of those, they either did it at the time of the assessment hearing, they deferred them until they're developed, or people applied for deferments. But that's what this one is.
All right, any further discussion? I know we already have a motion and a second on that, but before we put it to a vote, anybody like any further discussion? Hearing none, we will have a roll call vote on the resolution approving corrected deferment assessment language for parcel number. I really gotta say the number again?
No.
Okay, roll call vote, please, Ashley.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Gullikson,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Salvi,
Yes.
Mayor Waller.
Yes. All right, that takes care of all the resolutions. We'll move on to the city manager newsletter.
I know we're gonna be leaving on a tour of the park, so, I'll just mention one thing and then answer any questions you might have, but, we did have visitors from, actually 2 cities and 2 counties, came to Morris. They're part of the Climate Smart Municipalities group now that, Dr. Engel has with the, University of Minnesota. They specifically came to Morris to tour all the different things that we have here, and it was fabulous. It was really, really interesting to have other people come to town and take a look at what we're doing. In some cases, they struggle having people identify these are things that need to be done, and it was just fun having them here. So they really liked Morris and all the different things that we're doing. We took the electric school bus and toured them around everywhere, and the university hosted them for a lunch, and the research center out there had them looking at some of the unique stuff that they're doing. So it's always nice when you get a chance to have people come and visit your town and comment on it. So I suggested that maybe we go visit them. There's a brewery in New Ulm, so that's always a good spot to
Take
go
notes and
visit.
see how that works.
See how that works.
That's a full-fledged
That could
brewery,
be
not a,
That could be an investigative thing that we have to do, see about brewing beer. But and then I'll just answer any questions, because I know we're gonna jump on a transit bus and go tour the parks.
Anything else on the city manager's newsletter? Hearing none, we'll move on to the mayor and city council board updates. Anybody have anything from their respective boards? Hearing none, we'll move on to the other business. I just had just one thing, actually. We already approved the pay estimate number 3 for East Sixth Street, but I did have somebody talk to me about, it's actually line item number 66 on that pay estimate regarding the boulevard grass on East Sixth Street here. I think we paid the contractor $2,000 for turf establishment. And if you see on there, it's mostly weeds, and somebody had talked to me wondering what we're gonna do to rectify that, and did we have any options on how they were gonna plant the grass there? I mean, sometimes they put, fabric over it to establish it, to get a good catch.
So they have to establish turf. And if they don't establish turf, then they're gonna come back in and they're gonna establish turf. I actually talked to Jeff Kuhn this afternoon about it. What they have to do is they have to come and water it. And we're in a cycle now where we're not getting rain, and then the weeds come up. So
Yeah.
Jeff will go back to the contractor and let him know that it happened on Oregon Avenue.
Yeah.
It's happened on a number of these projects. They actually sprayed that spray stuff on where it has a coating and seeding built into it. But if you don't water it, it's not gonna grow, and then the weeds are gonna come out. So, yeah, we're on top of that.
Okay.
It happens every single time.
All
And
right.
we retain some money for the
Yes.
final payment.
Yeah, the
and it
final
does not
payment-
go out until everything
Right,
is satisfied.
we have retainage, so, they have to establish, they may be coming back. That's what happened on Oregon Avenue. They had to come back and redo it. And, it's unfortunate, cause there's a company that does that for a living, and I think we had to do it at Chiswick.
Yep.
When they put in the parking lot.
Well, thanks for staying on top of
Yep.
that.
Yep.
I just had one other thing. Mayor Paul Kirkheide from Herman, he reached out to some of the local mayors. They currently contract for sweeping their streets fall and spring with more seal coat. And, well, number one, I'll back up, in his words, they're too small of a community to go out and actually buy their own sweeper, so they've been contracting with more seal coat. And due to the timing, it's really hard, because that coincides with their busy times. They haven't been able to make it work. It's getting kind of unmanageable for them. So he reached out to some of the nearby cities to see if those people that do have a city sweeper, if we would be interested in entering into some kind of a contract with them to provide assistance with helping them clean their streets spring and fall. So I just kind of emailed them and told them that I would present it to the council, and, not knowing how involved it is, but, them sweepers probably aren't, you're certainly not gonna drive it all the way to Herman. So I don't know how.
No,
you do it.
the one thing we do is we do have a period where we allow business owners to contact us so we can sweep their parking lots. Our sweeper is busy all the time.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is that we're constantly sweeping, and that's part of our stormwater maintenance plan, is that we gotta continuously sweep and keep track of how many tons of stuff we're pulling off the roads and stuff. And I don't know if they've ever done that in the past, but I would say that's our answer. But I'll talk to Russ about that, because he's been around small towns too. Yeah, you can't afford to buy one of those, and it's the most used piece of equipment that we have, and it takes abuse.
Yeah,
I was
Is
gonna say,
this-
right before this sweeping of the parking lots, wasn't it in for repair too?
Yeah, it was down for some repairs,
Yeah.
and this is not an old piece of equipment.
No, it's not, it's not even that, 2 years old maybe?
Yeah,
Is it that
just a
old?
couple of years old, so.
Yeah, so I guess.
But I'll
yeah.
talk to Russ about that, because that's, sometimes these small towns, they just don't have the ability to do some of that stuff.
Yeah. You
But
just-
if there is an existing business providing the service, I guess I hate to see us
Right, yep.
competing with somebody that out of Cyrus
Yep.
that does it, but just checking with them and seeing because I know they do most of the small towns around us, but yeah, that'd be the only thing with us competing with an established business.
And then when in the email he sent, he didn't really clarify if it was a problem at their end or his end, if it was just, he just said that it was getting very difficult to make that relationship work. So I don't know if it was if they were having a problem getting to them when they wanted it. I guess I didn't really get the whole gist of it, but I just thought I'd throw it out there and
I
see.
can answer that, I go to that meeting. I attend that meeting, and it was getting cost prohibitive to do it.
Oh,
Because you have a sweeper and a truck and a
Yeah,
man,
yeah, they need a
and you
truck.
have another man to drive the truck, so yeah, it is,
What do you mean, the contractor or the city?
It was getting too expensive for
To the city, yeah,
to do it.
to
So
contract
what,
with.
what would it be?
they were hiring
What's
more
gonna
Sealco,
change
right?
from
They
us to
outsourced
them?
it.
I mean,
Nothing.
for
They
a
were
sweeper.
hiring not only the sweeper, but 2 trucks
Sure.
Oh,
to come.
to haul the sweeper.
No, you gotta, what you're sweeping
Oh,
up, you gotta
to-
haul that
to
away.
haul
to
it away, I
stuff.
get it,
You
yeah.
can't just dump it in the back alley, because you
Right,
have,
right,
if
right,
you're
right.
using salt and all the
Okay.
different things.
Yeah, I would suggest that, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, our
We have,
sweeper's
we have
busy
plenty
enough.
to do
probably.
with our own, and if that was becoming the problem, I don't know what would change from
Right.
us to them.
Right, exactly right. Okay, just thought I'd throw it out there, all right. Any other informational items at all? Hearing none,